You're listening to the Flourish Mindset, where we talk to entrepreneurs and discover their successes, their failures, and their secrets to winning at business. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Flourish Mindset. Today with me, I have Lars Knobloch from Nordic Inspections. Welcome, Lars.
Thank you.
I am so glad I have Lars here. Our kids actually play basketball together, so we've been sitting together all season, and I finally got the courage, I guess, to ask you if you wanted to come on, so I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you end up getting into inspections?
Yeah, so I moved into the area in 2009, and I moved in here from Norway, so I didn't have a worker's permit. My wife was pregnant, so since this, she's good about to have that baby, like I need to start figure out a job, and my brother came to visit, and he wanted to buy a suit. So we went to a clothing store, and they actually asked me, because as I was helping him find his suit, they asked me if I would be interested in working there. And I was like, yes, score. So I went to a job interview and was disappointed to find out they offered me $6.40. This was back in 2009 or 2010.
But that's still less than minimum wage.
Yeah, but at the time, even then at the time, 10, 11 years ago or more, it was super low. It wouldn't even cover daycare for my daughter.
Right.
So it's like, well, I'm just going to stay home with my daughter and I'm going to figure out something else. And then it was my wife that thought, hey, why wouldn't you start doing inspections? You have the background in construction for all these years. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to jump right into it. So my daughter was born, and then I was getting up at 3:30, 4 a.m. in the morning to study because there was like a big language barrier. So many things I didn't know how to. Well, the words were in English, right? Like anything from a crowbar to, I knew what a hammer was, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Like a lot of these. The words and the terminology and the different things in the home inspection industry, I didn't even know what it was, right? So I had to kind of learn it from scratch. So I was, studying until my daughter woke up and then put her to bed again later in the day and then back to studying. So I did that for a good 6 to 9 months and then just jumped into the home inspection industry in 2009.
So did you have to have a license to do inspections, or what was the process of getting that started?
There is a licensing program in North Dakota, so I have to be licensed. And I sent in my application, and they told me it would be like a 4 to 5 month before we would have that approved. And I was ready to go, right there. It was getting into summertime and market was hot. There wasn't really that many inspections around. Inspectors. Mm-hmm. I think it was 9 home inspectors at the time, and now it was like 35, 40. So I was like ready to go. So I actually called them. I called the Secretary of State and said, hey, you know what? I really need to get started on this job to provide for my family. Mm-hmm. And we can't afford our mortgage. I was exaggerating like crazy, right? Just because I wanted them to give me a go-ahead. And I was like, okay, sure. Then a few days later, they got it over to me. I'm just sorry. I lied. But sometimes you got to make your way through.
Right.
That's basically how the process was for getting licensed for me.
Though, I find that you can tell someone who's passionate and ready to go versus somebody who's maybe a little bit more passive on it. Because even, in real estate, you have to have your license. And everyone's like, oh, well, the state hasn't gotten back to me or anything. And it's like, well, why aren't you calling them? Why aren't you figuring out a way to get contact from them or something? Right? Yeah, go drive down there or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you truly are passionate about it. And that shows that you had motivation to do it.
I was very dedicated.
Right. That's great. Did you start by shadowing anyone, or did you just dive in? And how did you get your name out there right when you started?
I did not shadow anyone. I think I maybe was attending one inspection, but it wasn't like a full inspection. So honestly, I didn't really know what I was doing when I did my first inspection. Mm-hmm. I had a good background and a good understanding, but looking at the quality and professionalism that we're providing now versus then is day and night difference. It should be, right?
Right, from when you start to when you're
But yeah, I was working on trying to build relationships. It was an advantage for me that I was Norwegian, I think, because there's a lot of people here with a Norwegian heritage. Mm-hmm. So I think some got curious about who's this new Norwegian guy, in town that's reaching out to everybody. I remember we got Norwegian chocolate that we brought from Norway, like little pieces of chocolate that I had this idea of sending it in the mail to all realtors, kind of as an introduction. Well, we didn't think that this was in the middle of summer.
Oh no!
I think there was a few of them that ended up just melted. So I think that was maybe not. That was maybe a failure, but we learned from that.
Sure.
But yeah, other than that, just trying to build relationships. I didn't know anyone here moving here. So looking at me now, because of that, probably 90% of the people I know are in the real estate industry.
Right.
Because I moved here I knew one person, right?
Right.
So now I know a lot of realtors and people in the real estate industry. That's kind of my sphere.
Right. Well, and it makes sense because that's who you it's your market enter, right? Yeah. So who you advertise to. Mm-hmm. So I think about what you're doing now and what your company is doing, and I'm sure you've heard it, but buyers want to use Nordic Inspection. Sellers get a little bit nervous. Yeah. As a realtor, and when I sold my home, you guys inspected my home, and it was like a 1920s fixer-upper, and I was like, oh no. And it was okay. It was okay. But how did you position yourself to be the elite of inspection in this area?
I think it comes down to the purpose of doing inspections. I started out early doing presentations at first-time homebuyers classes. It was at the Village at the time in Moorhead, and got to meet so many first-time homebuyers in understanding how little they knew about homes. Mm-hmm. And understanding that without them having some sort of guidance or education going into the process, they're going to experience a lot of failure, a lot of problems are going to happen because they're not going to be proactive. They don't really know what things means and what to do and what not to do. Right. And that got me really passionate about education. And I think that's why right now we as a company are really focusing hard on the education part of the inspection. When we do training and when we talk in the office about how we want to do our inspections, our conversation is about communication, education. It's not about doing the best inspection or having the best tools. Right. We are passionate about trying to help people make the right decision for them. Make them understand what they're getting into, what they should budget for in the future, but also help them on the way and trying to educate them, let them know about things that they need to be aware of and should do and shouldn't do, right. So bad things won't happen to their house. And I think when you have that passion and you're very transparent to people about what we're in business for. It's not to make money. It's not to do inspections. It's to help people and to educate them. I think it maybe shines through. I hope it does. And I hope that's one of the main reasons that, we're doing a lot of inspections every year. Absolutely.
I truly believe when your center focus is taking care of people and not about the money, it all comes back, but the center should be the people that you're taking care of.
It should be. And you have to have a purpose. Mm-hmm. If your purpose is to make money, that's never going to fly, right? You have to figure out something deeper in that means something to you. And our inspector team we're just going through this right now and kind of redoing our mission, vision, value, and culture statements in our company. And it's been really cool because we all seems to be on the same page. Yeah. We all kind of have the same thoughts about how this should look like. So it's been really cool so far.
That is very important that having the people who you work with every single day share the same vision and values as you.
Yeah, we used to have, like, my wife and I created our MVVC. But then it was mostly just the two of us. And what we created, or honestly, it was mostly her, and she did a great job with it. But now there's more people in our company, and we want to include everybody in that conversation so that we all know that we all stand behind what our MVVC is.
Right. Well, and then when you have something and you're truly believing in your MVVC, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
I've never heard it that way. Anyway, but yeah, mission, values, cores.
Yeah.
When you stand behind that and you're hiring to it, then everyone coming in is going to be there and standing with it too. So
that's the thing, and we want to put this on our wall because this is, it's our code for who we are and what we're going to do.
Absolutely. Love that. We just did ours recently again, and we just evaluated it and made sure it was still where we stood and what we're doing. Yeah. So I think it's so important to just constantly revisit it and just make sure that you're living in it every single day.
I agree. It's a living thing, and you need to adapt to any changes, but revisiting it, I love that.
One thing I did find, actually, and I don't know, maybe you found this too, is although our core values stay the same, the emphasis changes from time to time. Sure. So, we have 5 core values: grit, growth, relationships, integrity, and team. And sometimes we're focused on growth, and that's not just growth of the company, but growth on like each person as an individual. And other times we're focused more on our relationships with the outside world. And so, everyone can put values differently on different values, and some are more important than others to them. Have you experienced that at all?
We kind of dived into this conversation here over the last month or so. We ran out of time, so we just got to our mission. Yeah. So we haven't really dived into our vision, our values, and our culture in our company. We have it, as I said, but we're working through it right now. Working through it all. I think I would be able to answer that question for us a little bit better, maybe into February when we have all this figured out.
I encourage you to just ask them, have them rank their values and just see what comes out, because I think it's so interesting to see where each one of your team members is at.
I think that's a good idea. We've been trying to do like some exercises around it to try to come down to what we want, what really is important to us, and that's a great idea. I'm going to pick you up on that for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to come back and ask how it went. So that's great. Okay, and I love that you did not turn your construction background into construction per se here. I think a lot of people think that, I'm good at this one thing, so I have to find a way to make that one thing happen. But you evolved it into creating a company, and you've grown. It's not just you and your wife anymore. And you've maintained that high value to the client because you focus on taking care of them and put them at the center and their knowledge and experience at the center. So I think that's awesome. What are some surprises as you've grown along the way? You've been open for, what is that, almost 13 years-ish?
I think the biggest, and this is specific to our industry, is the fine line we have to walk in our job. Kind of what you touched base on here a few minutes ago with, buyer's agents love us and the seller's agent or the sellers does not love us at all, right? they hear that we were coming and they're like, that's what we're hearing anyway. But what people don't maybe understand is that our goal with any inspection we do is to, first off, number one, to serve our buyers right.
Absolutely.
Not mislead them, not sugarcoat things that shouldn't be sugarcoated. We shoot them straight. We're real with them. We're hired by them. We're going to help them. But we also want to try to serve the realtor is involved and the seller. We all want the deal to go through so everybody can move on with their lives and be happy.
Right.
But sometimes there's some problems in the way that needs to be resolved. Sometimes it's just that the buyer is overly concerned about something that the buyer shouldn't be concerned about. Then we really try to be upfront and be like, hey, this is not really a big deal, and trying to change their perspective on how they're thinking because we felt like this was a really great house. Other times there is just a problem in the way. And sometimes the seller doesn't have money to repair it, and the buyer doesn't have money to repair it. And then there will be some conflict, and there will be some frustration. And it's easy to blame the inspector then, right? So the fine line we have to walk, going through an inspection, reporting things, and make sure that no one will be unnecessarily worried or scared.
Right.
Then that was maybe the biggest surprise for me, like how touchy sometimes that could be. So yeah, this is nationwide, right? This is the toughest part of doing inspections. And this is why communication, in my opinion, is the most important skill for a home inspector. Without being able to communicate right, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's not the background. It's not the skills even. It's the way we communicate. I think, that's, in my opinion, maybe some of the best, most important skills.
Absolutely. All right. So we've had a surprise. I like to ask it because I think that, and I actually almost named the podcast Failing.
Okay.
Failing First, because I think that there's so much failure, right? And we grow from our failures.
Yeah.
As long as we learn from them, we own them and we learn from them, then we can grow from them.
Yeah.
So can you tell me maybe about a failure you had or a missed opportunity or something that maybe helped you grow?
I've been greatly influenced by a book I have read. I actually listened through it 5 times over the last month and a half.
Holy cow.
I think it's just absolutely critical for any entrepreneur, anyone in life to listen to this book or read this book. It had really changed so much for me in my life. And in this book, and I adapted this right away as soon as I heard it, there is no failure. Either you win or you learn.
Yep.
So that's why I tell myself, like, I'm trying to eliminate the word failure and change it to learn.
A learning opportunity.
And I mean, in that regards, I have learned a lot. I've learned how to communicate better. Starting out here in 2009, not really knowing the language well, not really knowing my profession well, and trying to maneuver through the process of a real estate transaction. When you become a key person in it, was hard, and I probably said things I should have said over the years, but I have learned and have become a much better communicator now than what I used to be, a long time ago. But this book, if I can share some.
Yeah.
So this book is a book. It's called The Gap and the Gain.
The Gap and the Gain. Okay.
And it's written by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy.
Okay.
And it's a very simple concept. Basically, for me, it was about, if I can just share something about me first, me like personally, as I've been trying to grow my business and always been comparing myself to our competitors in this market, comparing ourselves to neighbors, family members, and comparing myself to my ideal. And my ideal, your ideal is something big, right? That's maybe the absolute ideal.
Right.
But the ideal, you'll never accomplish or get to your ideal. Like, let's say your ideal is to have 100,000 followers on your podcast.
Right.
Then you get to 60,000, 70,000. Now your ideal is no longer 100,000.
No, it might be, 500,000
now
or something.
It might be 500,000. You're never going to get to your ideal, right?
Absolutely.
So I found myself measuring myself to everybody around me and feeling depression, feeling lower self-esteem, feeling on like failure.
Right.
Not getting anywhere, right? But then the thing is, I couldn't see all the progress I had in my life. So I read this book, The Gap and the Gain, and the concept of this is that we have to stop comparing ourselves to our ideal or to people around us. The ideal, just to explain to us, they're explaining in this book, is that it's like the horizon. You can keep walking towards the horizon, right. You're never going to get there.
Right.
So comparing yourself to something you can never get it's self-explanatory, right?
Right.
That's not going to feel good for you. So I was feeling I had no progress, we're spinning the wheels, couldn't do anything, I was still working crazy hours, feeling very negative about that. And I read this book where they're talking about you shouldn't be comparing yourself to your ideal and people around you. The best way to do that is to look backwards.
Oh.
So you look backwards and see, okay, what's my progress now over the last 90 days? What's my progress now over the last 2 years or 10 years? And then I started doing that, and I'm like, holy smokes. I cannot believe all this stuff that we have done, all the progress we have had. And I was just completely blind to it.
Right.
So now, without having any more progress, really, I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling satisfaction. I'm positive. I have better self-esteem. I'm happier just because I have now stopped measuring myself, to my surroundings and just measuring myself to myself, looking backwards in really acknowledging and remembering the progress I actually have had. Yeah. And I think it's a dark world out there for entrepreneurs. There's a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of hard times. Mm-hmm. And it's important to have your mind straight. So this is a book that I think is super important, not only for me, but I know it's going to be important for thousands, if not millions of other people. So The Gap and the Gain, I definitely recommend that book.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'll make sure we tag it here too. I love that because one, it reminds me a little bit of the compound effect in that it's all in those tiny little pieces that add up to something so big. Yeah. And you might be making tiny changes, like you said, that you're not going to see going forward. But when you look back, look at all those tiny little changes and how much effect it had on your life. Yeah. But also, like, even in business, that's why when you do your review before you maybe set your goals for the next year, you talk about what you did and what you accomplished. And even if maybe you're down because the last quarter didn't go right, how much did you do and how much were you guys able to accomplish before you got to that point? Yeah. And like celebrating those, it empowers you to keep moving forward.
It does. And then, talking about happiness as an example, we all have happiness. It's not something we have to go out to get. We all have it, but you just have to figure it out in your head. Right. Like what I did with I changed my thinking based on this book, right? Right. Now I'm feeling happy. I had it in me the entire time, but I just have to change around my mindset and my thinking. So yeah.
I love that. Especially so many times, you always have to be the best and you have to work the hardest and you always have to be going, especially as an entrepreneur. The perceptions that you're working 1 million hours a week and you're just giving up everything for it. But it doesn't need to be that, especially if you're making the little changes and you can look back and see it and appreciate it. Yeah, you can. But then it's the same with social media, right? Right, comparing. We're sitting on our phones at home on Saturday doing nothing, and then we're scrolling through Facebook or whatever other social medias out there, seeing what everybody's doing right now. It's like, oh my gosh, they're awesome. What a great life they're living. Oh, they're so happy. Look at that couple. Wow, there's such a beautiful family. And then that family goes home and have massive problems in their lives. But what you're seeing on Facebook or on social media isn't necessarily the reflection of their life. But we're sitting at home and we're measuring ourselves up against them based on these false images, right? Right. And then we're feeling bad about it. Right. So it's kind of the same thing. Stop measuring yourself to people on social media too, because it's detrimental to your health, your mental health. Well, back in the day, it was keeping up with the Joneses, right? Yeah. But it was, you just looked at the people in your neighborhood or whatever down the street, and that's who you compared yourself. And now it's so much more dangerous because, yes, everybody in the world is open to you, and you can see what everyone's doing. And everybody's posting their highlights, right? Of course, right. I just think about how many people go take a vacation and they take 100 photos, and then they post them throughout the year. Yeah. And it's like, oh, they go on vacation every single month. No, it was the one vacation. But I love that. The Gap and the Gain. Love it. Any other books that have been a big impact on you and your business? Yeah, for our business is we really want to go above and beyond for people. Meeting people's expectations is not good enough.
We want to exceed people's expectations. So there's a couple of books. It's not like massive books, but have really given me some clarity on how to be and how we can exceed people's expectations. One is called Go Giver. I think it's by Bob Burg. The Fred Factor is another one like that too that I really liked. Other than that, maybe the 4 Agreements. The 4 Agreements has maybe been after the Gap and Gain, the 4 Agreements maybe been the biggest impact on me. I can't remember the name. Don Miguel, I think, is the author on that one. So that one is another one I highly recommend. It's really short but highly impactful.
The 4 Agreements.
4 Agreements.
Okay, I'll have to look at that one. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but have you read the Zappos book?
I'm not.
Okay, that one's all about culture and the highest level of customer service that you can provide to your clients. Okay. And it's just a phenomenal one, just what they've done by putting the customer first.
Nice. You have to share that with me.
Yeah, I will. I'll get it for you. I'll post it in the comments or the description on the YouTube, guys.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's just putting the customer first again and delivering that highest level of customer service, and everything comes a bit later. So.
We all want that. We all want good communication, and we all want high customer service, right? And it's really, if you think of it, some of the easiest things to be good at.
Right. But we're so busy in our day-to-day lives and comparing ourselves to ourselves and the future and other people that you just lose track of that.
You do.
Yeah. Love it. Can you tell me maybe some people in your life that have had a huge impact on maybe you deciding to get into business for yourself, or maybe helping you grow your business?
I would say for sure my wife, Tracy, has been the biggest impact. She's always been there for me. She's always been the one I've been talking to, seeking advice to about anything happening. And she's super smart. She's always right, and I hate that. So that's sometimes hard. Right. But yeah, I think for sure her and see how she has sacrificed her career to serve her family and kids and her husband, and allowing me to work 15 to 18 hours a day for nearly 10 years. So that would be one. Another one I would say, as of recent years, his name is Dirk Van Reenen. He's a business coach and a big entrepreneur. He changed my perspective in life to understand that I need to start growing personally. I was never into books, never into reading. Okay. Never into. I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And that's what he kept telling me. You don't know what you don't know. You have to be open that there's that there's something out there that can change your lives in massive, massive ways. And I listened to that, and man, I wish I would have known. If I have the amount of stuff I have learned over the 3 years just from reading books about personal growth, mindset, business, stuff like that. I regret not doing that sooner. What if I started doing that when I was 20? Where would I be today then?
Right.
But I maybe wasn't ready at the time.
And we can't live in that land of what ifs. So the fact that you get to do it now, and there are people who never figure it out. Yeah. And the impact that you get to make now is pretty awesome too.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I would say those two have been maybe who have changed me for the better that I can think of. Yeah.
Love it. So if somebody were to say want to get into inspections, obviously it's going to be different from state to state, or maybe they're wondering how to utilize their gifts in a certain way. Do you have any advice for a listener?
See, if you're looking at getting into home inspection industry, you mean, or
in general? We can start there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, locally, it's tough now.
Yes.
There's a lot of inspectors around, and there is probably 90% or 80% of the inspectors or 20% of the inspectors are doing 80% of the business. Yeah. And it's tough. You're also heading into a slower market possibly. So I think the best thing to be aware of is that if you are trying to become a home inspector, know that you may not make a lot of money the first year. Mm-hmm. And you either would have to have a spouse that is making money, or you have some reserves, or maybe have a part-time job to begin with.
Okay.
Don't expect to make a lot of money. It's like in real estate too. You know, it takes 2, 3, 4 years sometimes before you really get in traction. And I think that's where a lot of home inspectors will fail. They think they can just get their certification, throw business cards around, and then the phone's going to start ringing. And the way the market is right now, that's just not going to work. But if you think you can be good at this, by all means, this is the best job in the world for me. And I know it is for a lot of other people too. So yeah, it's a great opportunity if you can get the foot in the door, but it might, you have to be prepared. It will probably take a little while.
Absolutely. I know, like in real estate, I think 85% of realtors will drop out of the market every 5 years or before 5 years. So they never make it past 5 years. And I think that entrepreneurs, it's a little less of that, maybe 75% don't make it past 5 years, and then another 50% drop out before 10 years. Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that because they hear those few stories of instant success, that they will have instant success. So it's know that there's going to be a grind, know that there's going to be a push, and you're going to have to persevere through a lot of things before you're going to be successful.
Yeah, it goes back a little bit to this book though. Like, what are those people doing that are backing out or falling out? They're measuring themselves to all the others and all their other people's massive success that may have been in business for 5 times longer than them, right?
Right.
And instead, they need to focus on themselves. Measure themselves by looking backwards, not at the competition. And if you do that, you will see exceptional growth if if you have the skills and are willing to work hard. But I bet you a lot of those wouldn't fail with a different mindset.
Right. Have you read The Mindset?
With Carol Dweck.
Yep.
I am about halfway through it right now.
Yeah. It's a good one. I mean, I would say that you could probably read about half of it and still get the whole point.
Yeah.
We actually read that one with my son because
did you?
We needed to focus on the
cool.
learning opportunities as opposed to the bad parts. So
I love that. I'm trying to read some books with my daughter as well. I think it's that's a gift you can give them at an earlier age.
Absolutely. And we can talk about, again, what happened if we learned these things 10, 20 years ago? So why not just do that for our children?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So love it. Okay, we're almost out of time, but is there any other advice you'd like to give to the listeners?
In terms of home inspections, don't skip your home inspection.
Yeah.
This is maybe the best advice I can give. There's always value to it, whether you find items that you can negotiate price or repairs with the seller, or just being aware of it, and so you can be proactive. We talk to several people every year. They're sharing their experience of how they chose not to have an inspection because that made their offer stronger, and now they got punched in the face several times.
Yeah, especially the last year or so.
Yeah. See, the thing that you can still have your inspection done after you closed. At least that gives you some knowledge about the condition of your house, and it helps you be aware of what to budget for.
Right.
What are your future expenses? What are some of the repairs that you need to do, and in what order?
Right.
So there's definitely value in that if you chose to not have an inspection done.
Well, and I think actually, if we ever get to the market that we were in before, which I hope we don't have some crazy frenzy. We will eventually, but if we're ever in that place again, people can still have an inspection before they close. Just don't make anything contingent on if they feel that they want to waive the inspection as a contingency. Still do the inspection, because what if they can hold back some of their down payment? If they're sitting okay, save that money towards some of the repairs down the road.
Absolutely, and it's like as an example with a sewer line. If you buy an older house and you don't know the condition of the sewer line, whether you had an inspection or not, after you close, then have it checked out, because you're not going to know if there's a problem with your sewer line until you have sewer backing up into a basement.
Yeah.
And now you have a problem that's 10x what it could have been, because now you're dealing with sewage all over the place. So that's just one out of many examples. If I were to give an advice, I think that would be it. It's never too late to have the house inspected.
You guys heard it. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Lars. I really appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions for Lars, should they reach out to the company, or is there a way to follow you or reach out to you?
We have a Facebook page. That's probably the only place we are active on social media. Otherwise, our website, you can send in questions or requests on our website, schedule inspections there as well. And our website is NordicCompaniesInc.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again. And thanks everyone for joining us in. You've been listening to the Flourish Mindset. Don't forget to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a single episode.